Done about.
Hey everybody, welcome to Common Censored Live. This is a special, not special episode because today's not special because it's July 4th, which we do not celebrate because it's not special. Special, not special episode.
Oh, it's only an hour difference. So.
What do you mean? Oh.
Well, we're going live at 7 instead of 8,
Instead
so
of
it's
8.
not really special. It's just an hour off.
No, but I meant it's a special July 4th episode that's not special because July 4th is not special because there's better things to celebrate in the world.
That's true.
Yeah. So that's why I said special, not because of the time.
Oh.
But that's okay. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Thanks for being here. And yeah, we're going to dig into, we're going to get into a lot of things, but all of the donations, as you know, go to people who are struggling, go to people who need a little help. If that's you, you can email commoncensor@protonmail.com. But if you have an extra $1 or $2, why not donate that right here on the super chat? And then we play the role of middle people who don't take a cut because we don't know how to, we suck at business. We're financial,
we are bad capitalists.
Financial losers. So, yeah, that's where the donations go. You can donate on Super Chat, you can donate on Rockfin, and you can donate on Venmo at Lee Camp, even if you're not watching it live. But thanks for being here live, so many people.
Please do share. We're going to be talking some shit about the 4th of July.
Share? We're going to sing some share? Oh, I thought you were saying there was going to be some share.
How are you doing dad jokes already?
They are not dad jokes.
That was a dad joke.
That's not a dad joke.
It's specifically a dad joke because a lot of people that are under 30 don't even know who Cher is. That's what makes it specifically a dad joke.
Hi, Fred. Hi, Robin. Hi, Ranter. We're going to get into the history of July 4th.
Yes.
Some
so
of that.
Share this with your friends because, you know, it's going to be like some story time. And I bet y'all have some cool tidbits that you can share in the chat as well. So, yes, let's cozy up next to that campfire if it weren't 4 billion degrees outside.
Oh, and by the way, even though a few hundred of you are already here, there's only 32 thumbs up so far. You can do better than that. So click the thumbs up. It helps. It gets people to pay attention and all that good shit. Oh, we got so many cool things to let you know about. I think I might mention. Oh, someone's telling me that was a dad joke. All right, fine. No more share jokes. That's the last share joke you get. I'll turn this video around. I think I said the same thing to Graham on Government Secrets.
Uh-oh, we're getting repeat dad jokes.
Yeah.
Shit.
So do we have a replacement for Happy July 4th?
No.
Contemplative July 4th?
Well, there's the let's take this time to
American Empire Day?
To learn American history.
Thanks, Rob. Rob calls it American Empire Day.
Yeah, like let's take a moment to learn about history that's actually legitimate. So, thanks. Thank you so much.
The new music video's out. It's at artkillingapathy.com.
Yes.
Oh, it's also on radindiemedia.com as well.
Ooh. Farce of July, I like that. But just to kick us off here, I wanted to share.
But who's going to kick off the donations? That's what I want to know.
Yes. Well, that's another good point. But I just wanted to share this little tidbit. The American Revolution was a bourgeois revolution that sought to ensure that Africans remain enslaved, and the process of indigenous land theft continued onward.
I have more on that in a moment.
Free the people, fuck the 4th. Can you just wait till I'm... You're like one of those people that get...
Who are those people?
The annoying kind. And this is actually something... Oh, God, what is his name? I just was going to fucking say it, and then I lost the name. He's a historian. He's an African-American historian that writes, like, brilliant... He was on...
Gerald Horne.
Yes, Gerald Horne. Gerald Horne...
Boom!
Has written about this quite a bit and about how the 4th of July
is the first. Well done, Kenneth.
Not just how the 4th of July, but how American history and the American Revolution in particular was fought about slavery, which we oftentimes just think about the Civil War as being fought about slavery. But the truth is that England was looking to abolish slavery in the colonies, and the U.S. was like, no, we can't do that. Or the pre-US, I guess we should call it, because it wasn't quite the US, the colonies.
So I have a more detailed version of exactly that. Do you want me to do that now or save it?
No, go ahead. That's a nice little...
Okay, so we'll go off on a tangent on that. So this is from Black Agenda Report, which if you want to see the article, it's up at radindiemedia.com. I don't know if you've heard of this new site. I know I sound like we're getting tons of money from it, but we aren't getting paid by it.
We're actually not.
Unless
you donate on the site, we don't get any money.
We just created it, radindiemedia.com. Thanks, Tony, for the donation.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, so this is from Black Agenda Report or radindiemedia.com. The men who every school child is taught to think of as patriots had two concerns which pushed them to declare independence in 1776. First, in 1763, the British emerged victorious after the end of the conflict against France. It was known as 7 Years' War, or in America as the French and Indian War. The American monitor existed precisely because the French allied themselves with indigenous nations against the British. British victory brought them French-held territory west of the Appalachians. But they knew they could not easily end indigenous wars if settlers along the eastern seaboard were allowed to go further west. Because of continued resistance from leaders such as Pontiac of the Ottawa Nation, King George III issued the Proclamation of 1763, which forbade settlement west of the Appalachian Mountains. One of the speculators poised to become a wealthier man if settlements were permitted to move westward was George Washington. I'm not descended from him at all. I don't know who you're talking about.
But see, this is also a day for Lee to piss off his ancestors.
Yes.
So that is a happy day.
Yes.
Any chance you get to piss off the ancestors that deserve it, you do that and be proud.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Let's see. Their second concern was whether the British were committed to continuing the previously unfettered right to slaveholding. And why is that if Britain had not yet forbade slavery or outlawed slavery? In 1769, an enslaved man named James Somerset was purchased in Virginia and brought to England. He eventually escaped, but was recaptured and was in the process of being sold to Jamaica. But Somerset had friends who went to court on his behalf, and in 1772, a judge ruled that enslaved people could not forcibly be removed from England. The ruling didn't end slavery in British territories. And in fact, that went on for another 50 years in those regions. But even this narrow decision, just that you can't ship a slave away from Britain, but even that narrow decision was too much for the white Americans who feared that the crown might undermine or even end their right to slaveholding. The crown and the colonists were both determined to seize lands from native peoples and to continue enslavement. But their interests were also hostile to one another, and war was the inevitable result. White settlers wanted full independence for themselves and no control of their actions at all. So in that way, enslavement and the fear of losing it, owning people, was significant in the declaration of the American country, of the United States.
So happy 4th of July.
Yeah.
And there's something, I've just lost my train of thought, which is embarrassing because I didn't even read a comment and get derailed. I just got derailed by my own, by the voices inside my head.
What were they yelling?
It's like in The Gods Must Be Crazy, where the woman turns to the other woman. She's like, do the voices in my head bother you? I think about that often.
They do.
Okay, so I'm going to share a few things that are very much aligned with that out of this rad book. Wait, I'm going the wrong way.
No, wait. Still going the wrong way.
The Many-Headed Hydra.
Okay.
Which is a totally badass book. I've basically been underlining everything, so I'm kind of just underlining the entire book. But
thanks, Bob.
Particularly the part that I'm on right now really underlines and highlights the connection between colonialism and capitalism, between the advent of capitalism and colonialism. For instance, the Virginia Company started because of the advent of capitalism. It was a capitalist venture, and of course, the whole point of that was to start colonizing what they named Virginia. So expropriation was it was the practice of basically like fencing in land and turning it into private property and basically destroying the commons. So they write here, as landlords dispossessed European workers and as European merchants dispossessed native peoples in the Americas, this concept of capitalism that forced colonialism was born. European capitalists had to forcibly expropriate masses of Englishmen from their ancestral homeland so that their labor power could then be redeployed in new economic projects in new geographic settings. So specifically there, you have that connection between capitalism, the creation of these private properties, the destruction of the commons, and colonialism. They radically changed, they write here, they radically changed agricultural practices by enclosing arable lands, evicting smallholders, and displacing rural tenants, thus throwing thousands of men and women off the land and denying them access to the commons. By the end of the 16th century, there were 12 times as many propertyless people as there had been 100 years earlier. And you got to do something with all those people, right? So they write here, unable to find profitable employment without land, credit, or occupation, these new proletarians were thrust upon the roads and ways where they were subject to the merciless cruelty of a labor and criminal code that criminalized being a vagabond, being a beggar. Basically, the system is going to make you propertyless and poor, and then make it illegal to be that. And so what did they do? They basically made laws that would ship these people to the colonies to be indentured servants or to basically work out their crimes, which is why we don't think about the United States as a prison colony like Australia, right? But it really started as such. For instance, if you were convicted of begging, because that was a thing, if you were convicted of begging, the first offense was you would be whipped publicly until you bled. That's what it said in the books. The second one was that you'd get sent to what was then, the New World, to basically work for these capitalist ventures that had land there. And so here they write, expropriation and the resistance, because as long as there's been capitalism, there's been resistance to it. Expropriation and the resistance to it fueled the process of colonization, peopling things like the Sea Venture, which was a ship, and many other transatlantic vessels during the first half of the 17th century. And so I just want to share one more thing about this that I think, like, it's one of those moments where you're just like, oh, if shit could have gone the other way. So there were writers that were, that had gone to the New World and wrote about their experiences. And for instance, one man, William Strachey, wrote, Virginia's Indians were, quote, for the most part of the year, idle. Although their bellies be great for their proportions, and plenty of land is nourishing them, they need not labor and toil much. So the authors write here, and that's the end of William Strachey's commentary. Then the authors write, such discoveries inflamed the collective imagination of Europe, inspiring endless discussion of peoples who lived without property, work, masters, or kings. So people heard about these indigenous peoples who didn't have these horrific, these horrific systems of government, which, capitalism was very new. And before that, it was feudalism, where you still very much had masters and kings. And yet the indigenous peoples that these Europeans were encountering had plenty of food, and people didn't need to be flogged in the middle of like a town square for being poor, because being poor wasn't a fucking thing. And so people were inspired by this, and these writers are making the point that this fueled the imagination of a lot of people. For instance, in Ireland, where there were a lot of rebellions against the British who colonized Ireland. It also inspired a lot of people who did, prison uprisings in the 1600s. And just, really highlighting like that solidarity that even then existed between like the working class people in England and indigenous peoples in what is now the United States, and how that really, really, really could have been something beautiful had working class people in what is now the United States not fallen victim to their own greed and barbarism. But I think that's and this is like the late 1500s, early 1600s. So this is almost 200 years before the United States officially becomes a country, and this is this is talking about how capitalism fueled colonization. And of course, we see today how that continues, and how capitalism fuels really all of the ills that we experience in this nation. And yeah.
Yeah, and I
thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
No, I'm glad you did that. Something and something that goes with this that I covered several weeks ago on government secrets. It's another podcast for people to check out. But is that worker strikes and strikes by the person that the people being held down by the oligarchs, by the rulers. That is like at the birth of this country. And I don't even mean 1776. I mean like pilgrims when they were arriving. And I obviously mean the country when the white people arrived and genocided the Native Americans. I don't obviously mean that, but I mean that. But yeah, and from the earliest days, the Mayflower like sat off the shore for a day, and there was a strike where the people refused to basically land until they were given more equal settings, because they had signed a contract that basically made them temporary slaves. I mean, indentured servants, and those and of course the contract they ultimately signed, because they won the strike, and the contract they signed made everybody fairly close to equal, but that was slowly taken away from them. That is the gravity of capitalism. There were also many instances in the early days of the United States when there was communal living going on. I mean, long before 1776. And those were slowly gutted as well. And then you had land speculators. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Jessica. And they had land speculators, pushing the poor people farther and farther out because they wanted to claim all the land. Wow, Chaos Agent, $50. Love it. Yeah. Incredible. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
All these donations are going to people who are struggling, who need a leg up, who need a couple of bucks to get them through the weekend or whatnot. And if that's you can email commonsensor@protonmail.com. If that's not you, then you can throw in a couple of bucks, and we can have a little solidarity fund where we all help each other out, because this whole dynamic of people fucking miserable because they can't pay their bills and they can't afford to live and they can't get enough food and shit like that, it shouldn't even be happening.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike, as well. Everybody jumping in. I love it.
Yes, thank you. To answer your question, Nick, it is not raining here, which is unfortunate because DC is always super loud and fucking annoying on this day.
DC does July 4th like no one else. It's the only day of the year that you're apparently allowed to walk with open alcoholic beverages on the streets. I know in New Orleans you're allowed to do that like all the time.
Because if you're going to choose one day to let that happen, it's a day when a bunch of white supremacist nationalists descend on the Capitol. Good call.
There's a lot of people. I got news for you. There's a lot of people celebrating in DC right now who are not white supremacists.
No, I know, but the ones who usually get violent after a beer or two,
oh, well, right,
tend to be the white nationalists.
And here's the other thing: I am fine. It's not like I've never lit off a firework. I'm fine with like celebrating with friends, but just do it to like celebrate your friendship or your community, or because you think it's fun or something. Hey, let's get together and have drinks, not because, hey, let's celebrate the empire that's currently driving all of humanity off an ecological cliff and destroying people's lives around the world. Don't do it for that reason. Just do it because you're like, hey, friends are important or something like that, you know?
Well, and my thing is, I like somebody commented, this was a couple of July 4ths ago. They're like, great, you're just gonna like ruin all of the holidays. So we don't have any, like, no more July 4th.
That's
no
not
more,
true. Arbor Day is excellent.
No more Thanksgiving. And I was like, yeah, so like your complete lack of imagination is clearly showing through here. Those are made up holidays, because every fucking holiday is made up. So why don't you just make up other ones? Like, why don't we set off fireworks for Emma Goldman's birthday? Like, that sounds like a fucking great reason to celebrate to me. Or really, like, like, your dog got his balls removed. I don't know. You can make anything a fucking holiday. So why does it specifically have to be a holiday about genocide and slavery? Like, that's fucked. You could, I mean, why not create a holiday about something really beautiful and wonderful? I'm just, you know.
Absolutely. And I said the same thing about, I was hanging out with family, and they like couldn't imagine a statue or anything that didn't go to Confederate war, you know, Confederate soldiers. They were like, listen, you know, what are you gonna put up there? And it's like, there's a million other things you could put up there.
Just put up the horse.
You could have the first statue of a black woman in the country. Like, there are many things that you could put up in our fucking societies in statues instead of just Confederate generals. But they're like, what are you going to name the high school other than Robert E. Lee High School?
It's like this like mind-numbing lack of imagination that is just so sad and awful.
As long as we're on, this is clearly a wacky train of thought episode, which is what I was looking forward to. I like your name, your ass and face, but when this came up on my screen, the word up was on the next line, so it said get drunk and try not to blow yourself, which I was like, talking crazy. Okay.
As Bill Hicks said, ladies, if men could blow themselves, you'd all be sitting here alone staring at an empty stage.
So to finish that joke, which I got cut off from,
you were trying.
I was not trying to blow myself. I wait till after the show to do that. No, my response when I saw your ass in face and said, get drunk and try not to blow yourself, was I don't have to try. It's very easy to not blow myself because it's impossible.
Because every guy has tried. I fucking guarantee it. I learned this when I was in my teens, that every boy at some point in his teens tried to blow himself.
Wait,
some like actually
you were watching me last weekend? Shit. Damn it. Hello, DS. Thank you for the donation.
You.
Yes, Gravel and Stone. Doing good work. We played a clip of him on the live stream last week. Too bad we lost him. I hope right now, Gravel, I don't believe in an afterlife, but if I did, I hope right now Gravel is in heaven, but it's like he's got a really long, fiery poker that he's stabbing into Donald Rumsfeld's eye, and Rumsfeld's in hell. And it's like Gravel's job to just keep doing that.
Wouldn't that be nice? I think heaven is probably a no weapon zone, though. That's why I think it's boring. I mean, there's probably no alcohol in heaven. There's no like rock stars in heaven.
Right.
There's
no cool
like
people.
Like, fuck, dude. No way. I don't want to sit on a fucking cloud for all of eternity. Like, I want to rock out.
Thanks for the donation, Jim.
Thank you. I mean, I'm okay with unicorns. Yeah. Anyway.
This is the best episode of our live stream yet because it's gone completely off the rails, which is what I like. Guys, feel free to throw in topics we should discuss, what you'd like to hear discussed, or questions about what's going on in the world, and we'll do our best to answer some of them.
Absolutely.
And donate, by the way. All the donations go to people who are struggling.
Wow, human love solidarity. That is incredibly sexist and bullshit comment. So thank you for that. I am going to share a little tidbit about the 4th of July that you won't get from history books because it's a little awkward for
Thanks,
the United
Jim.
States. So it's kind of like how Argentinians remember September 11th.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Which is the day that the United States, the CIA-backed coup of Argentina happened,
I
September
know.
11th, 1973.
When you say September 11th, it means different things to certain people.
Yeah. So this is Native Hawaiians, and I'm sharing this from the Coup Project on Instagram, KUP, or the Coup Project, sorry, KU Project.
Thanks, Basil.
On Instagram. And okay, so on July 4th, 1894, just over a year since the illegal throw of the Hawaiian Kingdom by the United States, members of the self-proclaimed provisional government gathered on the steps of the Iolani Palace. With guns tucked out in public sight, William O. Smith introduced Sanford Dole, president of the provisional government, and Dole proclaimed, get this is a fucking amazing quote, as the sovereign authority over and throughout the Hawaiian Islands, the Republic of Hawaii that had just been created, I declare the Constitution framed and adopted by the Constitutional Convention of 1894 to be the Constitution and the supreme law of the Republic of Hawaii. And by virtue of this Constitution, I now assume the office and authority of president. The Constitution declared all of Lilikulani's government's lands, waters, and citizens as those
Thanks,
of
Tony.
the Republic. Republic. I don't think you can actually have a republic if you and your friends write a constitution and then decide by virtue of that constitution that you just fucking made up that you're the head of this place that you just took over.
I mean, it does sound very American.
I don't think that's what a republic means.
Yeah, they literally like pressured the king into signing something saying the parliament or whatever they called it existed.
Right.
And the Constitution?
The provisional government.
Provisional government existed, and then the provisional government declared themselves rulers.
Right. And basically stole all of the land that was belonged to the sovereign nation of Hawaii. And so that's, when we talk about Independence Day, it's like, okay, so first of all, in the continental United States, independence for who? Juneteenth would happen many years after the 4th of July. And of course, if we're talking about indigenous peoples, yeah. And then of course, if you bring in a class conscious lens to that conversation, that's a lot of people that just not part of that whole independence, right? And then of course you look at places like Hawaii, that I mean, it seems almost like too horrifically perfect that they decided to like officially take over and completely ban Hawaii's independence on so-called U.S. Independence Day. It's really fucking grotesque. So yeah, there's a little bit of some more American history for you.
Thanks, Bert.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Thank you, Bert.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bert, for the donation. All the donations go to people who are struggling. And as I always try and mention, we're not talking about $1 million, unfortunately. I'd love to hook people up with all kinds of shit. We'd send you a car or something. But no, it's like the average we've been able to give people is about $80 for people who are really having a rough time. And you can email commoncensored@protonmail.com if that is you. If that's not you, why not throw in $5 to help out those people? So that's how we do it here.
Thank you, Bundle of Perceptions. That is indeed a uplifting topic, and I don't know, but I doubt it's cooler than normal.
I think I saw another tweet the other day saying Israel had fired another bomb in Palestine. And then someone else had responded, it's actually news now, and Israel is not bombing Palestine because that seems to be the norm.
Yeah, that's, so.
Thanks, Martin. You like Eddie Izzard, right?
I do. That's so true. Eddie Izzard has a great bit about the moon landing and really about nationalism and
Well, that reminds me of my question with like the Pledge of Allegiance and everything, or even just toxic nationalism, just this pride, excessive pride in a nation. If you're really like something, like let's say your country has good, thanks Mo, has good public transit or something, then okay, you could be like, I really like that my country has good public transit, or whatever, fine. But the whole like, fuck everybody else and we rule and every Iranian is evil because my country told me Iranians are evil. Like that shit is all so fucking ignorant and just awful. And so it's like most nationalism is just bullshit spewing out of people's heads. It has nothing to do with you or who you are or what you really achieved in life. And so most nationalism is just garbage. It's used to keep you in line. It's used to fight wars and send your people and your sons and daughters to go fucking die for nothing causes. Like most nationalism is just garbage. So when people say like, oh, I have Pledge of Allegiance, what's wrong with it? It's great. It's like, what? Pledging to what? To what? Even the Star Spangled Banner, hand over the heart. To what? To a flag? To a certain area of soil that happens to be in borders some guy came up with fucking hundreds of years ago? Is that like a certain patch of soil? Or is it, are you pledging allegiance to the military? I really like our bombs. I'm really impressed with our jets. And like, what is it you're allegiant to? Also, considering the fact how much we hate each other, there's that too. You're like, fuck everybody who voted for Trump, fuck everybody who voted for Biden. It's like, well, all right, so what is it about the country you like then? If you hate everybody who voted for the people you like, you
well,
did
and
like.
it also suggests that there is an American experience, which there really isn't. With a country this size, with so many different cultural backgrounds and really geographic realities, there is no fucking American experience. Like somebody who lives in the Pacific Northwest would go to like Southern Louisiana and experience it like a different fucking country. And, likewise somebody in Maine who goes to like the Arizona desert, like these are completely different experiences that somehow still are all American, right? Mm-hmm. And we pretend like we have shit in common when you can't actually have something in common with 400,000 people. 400 million. 400,000. Wouldn't it be nice?
330 million.
Yeah. With 330 million people, $1 million. That's how I feel right now. But you can't actually have something in common with 330 million people over 4,000 miles. Like that's fucking dumb. There is no American experience, and nationalism is bullshit. And I wanted to share on that note a quote by Ursula K. Le Guin about this. She says, what is love of one's country? Is it hate of one's uncountry? Then it's not a good thing. Is it simply self-love? That's a good thing, but one mustn't make a virtue of it or a profession. Insofar as I love life, but that sort of love does not have a boundary line of hate. That's not actually the quote that I wanted to read. Hold on. Okay, here. I know people, I know towns, farms, hills, and rivers and rocks. I know how the sun at sunset in autumn falls on the side of a certain plowland in the hills. But what is the sense of giving a boundary to all that? Of giving it a name and ceasing to love where the name ceases to apply? And I just love that idea, like, what is love of one's country? Is it hate of one's uncountry? Mm-hmm. And this idea that you, like, because if you've ever been to a border that's not like, land, well, even any fucking border, if it's a natural border, it's like if you go to, the border between the US and Canada, and it's just like, it fucking nature doesn't fucking know. It's not like, oh, on this side there are specifically American trees that look like this, and in Canada it's just a bunch of fucking maple trees. Like, no, that's not how it fucking works. Like, it's a continuation. So like, what, you stop fucking caring at the border of this pretend line
Thanks,
that
Nick.
some jackass drew hundreds of years ago? Like, it's absolute nonsense. And of course the poison that it breeds is
Yeah, and like, I mean, the garbage that you hear, like, that people fall for just because they're just like, oh, it's my country, so I just am going to go with whatever my country is saying, is like, it's amazing what they get people to do, what they get people to kill and be killed sometimes. If under the guise of this propaganda for the country. It's like, we should all be global citizens working together. And yes, you're not going to know a lot about your, the community that's around the other side of the planet than you. But I'm very different from tons of people in the United States. So it's like, that's no different. And there's a great book called Creating Freedom you should check out. But it's also connected to a film about the lottery of birth, which is like, most of us understand that, like, if I was born and raised in Gaza, then I would have all the same beliefs or close to them as your average Gazan. And if I were born and raised in Iran or born and raised in China, then I would have a certain realm of beliefs that is normal is the most common among those people. And yet we're told to believe those people are somehow wrong, or those people are somehow after us, want to get us, or what, like,
yep.
But you're admitting that it just has to do with where you're fucking born and raised to a large degree.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I see some people talking about how there are evil countries and good countries. No, there are evil people. But the idea that land can be evil, that's just fucking dumb. And a country is,
thanks, Juliet,
basically land that has, borders, again, that are made up by people. And we see this constantly, right? Like, we saw this in Bolivia, where there was a coup that happened, and then all of a sudden that country was run by white supremacist, U.S. puppets, and that took over for an indigenous-led government. That didn't make the land of that specific country good or evil. It's the people running this shit. Like, Bolsonaro is a fucking horrible human being, but that doesn't mean that Brazil, the land that is Brazil, is somehow evil. Because that also suggests two things. One, that a country is equal to the ruler, and it also suggests that people are like the dictators of land, which suggests, again, this really fucked up paradigm that we can control the land, and that thinking is literally what's killing us, because,
thanks, Emily,
the earth is making it quite clear that we do not decide as much as we would like to. So yeah, I buck against that concept of there being good and evil countries, because of course that also, another part of that is that leads to this perception that there are evil people that are part of those countries, which again is fucking dumb, because in that case, then everyone here is evil because the United States is evil.
I am putting Emily's question to all of you guys. She says, what is the best movie to watch on 4th of July, and why is it A Bug's Life? Now, I haven't seen A Bug's Life, but I
think I saw that years ago.
Well, I think it came
out.
out
Babysitting.
Came out years ago, but
when that was a thing I did.
But anyway, so throw into the chat what you think the best movie is to watch on July 4th. Probably The Matrix. Or Fight Club.
Oh, Fight Club, yeah. I need to rewatch that.
Thanks, Bundle of Perception, for the donation. All right, so if we get, let's go with $100. If we get $100 in the next 10 minutes, we'll stay an extra 10 minutes until a little after 8 o'clock. And
I always forget people's names.
Sorry, got kicked out again. Don't know why that happened. Wake Up News here. So, hello, Wake Up News.
Hello. Thank you for
Happy birthday. Oh, that's true. It's Sanja's birthday. I was at a protest for that as well recently. Thank you so much for the donation. All right, so if we get $100, which we're already at 9, we're already at 10, so or 15. We will stay an extra 10 minutes. So
I'm sorry. I am looking for, the reason I'm looking at my phone is because I'm looking for this quote by Marjane Satrapi. God, thank you. She's a graphic novelist from Iran. May I read it? Since I've been looking for it for the past 5 minutes.
Of course. Can I still say thank you, Basil?
Please.
Okay.
Okay, so Marjane Satrapi, an Iranian graphic novelist, said, "The world is not divided between East and West. You are American, I am Iranian. We don't know each other, but we talk and we understand each other perfectly. The difference between you and your government is much bigger than the difference between you and me. And the difference between me and my government is much bigger than the difference between me and you. And our governments are very much the same." And I love that quote because particularly when it comes to Iran, this idea of, and I think people in other countries are a lot better at recognizing this because I think in other countries, particularly, you know, countries that are very old, and Iran is really fucking old, there's not this like intense nationalism that's programmed into people. And I can speak as somebody who went to Swedish school. It was like Swedish nationalism wasn't programmed into us. Like we didn't learn about Swedish exceptionalism.
It's also very rare to see a flag just sticking out of someone's house in Sweden. It's just not a thing people do.
Yeah, it's
Whereas
not
here, it's like American flags are fucking everywhere. My American flag underwear are like the best. They're just so soft.
And so, yeah, I think that like that is, it's so important to recognize like the solidarity between, you know, quote unquote citizens, right? The like residents of countries that live under these regimes, and I am calling the US a regime, have far more in common with other people who live in this, you know, in this bullshit global capitalist system than we have with the people who actually like legislate and call themselves our fellow Americans. Like, fuck you. I have nothing in common with you. I have way more in common with that shopkeeper in fucking Iran than I do with you, you penis wrinkle. So, yeah, really important to, you know, to remember that solidarity across borders.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, I guess we're not going to get the $100, which means we will be checking out soon. And yes, that is a threat. But thank you guys for joining us. All the donations go to people who are struggling. You can if that is you and you feel you could use a little help, then email commoncensored@protonmail.com. The average we're able to help someone out with is usually about $80, and yeah. But all of that's coming from you guys. So thanks for your help. You can also donate. If you're not watching this live, you can donate on Venmo at Lee Camp. And I would also like... Oh, power cord?
I was trying to signal you, but you weren't getting it. So
I don't know what. I don't know what was going on there.
I was tapping the power outlet.
It looked like you were fingering the laptop, which I didn't want to get in the middle of. So.
God. Men are all the same.
So I also want to mention our new project, radindiemedia.com. Check it out. And we kind of view it as like a front page, a first page of kind of leftist media. Every day you can check it, and hopefully you'll just bookmark it, and it'll just be a thing you go to. Because part of the reason that I thought it was a great idea, I don't even remember who came up with it. Maybe you came up with it. But part of the reason I thought it was a great idea is because I go on my phone every day, and half the time, simply because it's an easy app to access, they give you the Apple like news app is just like right there, and I click on it, and I don't read most of the articles, but I see what your average American is talking about on New York Times or USA Today or whatever the fuck. And I always wish there was like an equivalent version of that for real media, for not USA Today garbage CNN shit. And so
Nick.
it's not an app, but if you open it on your phone, it looks pretty good. And wow, thanks Chaos Agent. Thanks, Nick.
Hold on, this pair character. Are you done?
Oh, take this away. Let me finish. So this is like what you can do. You can wake up in the morning and check radindymedia.com and just run down the headlines. And of course, click on an article if you want to see it, click on a video if you want to see it. But, you know, you get a little of the best news stories. And I don't always mean the good news, but the best done news stories, the best reporting on the internet, rather than some app with garbage news that Apple pushes on you. Okay.
Amen. Okay. Thank you, Nick. Para-character, staying inside and watching the storm through the window while wondering what fireworks to get for my next birthday party. Can't help you there. I don't know anything about fireworks. I like sparklers. That's not actually a firework, is it?
Yeah, it counts as a firework.
It does?
Yep.
It doesn't make a boom.
Maybe that's the differentiation that people use with firecrackers.
Okay. Well, I
Although
like
it is
sparklers.
normally crackers setting off fireworks. Ah! That's not true. People of all colors and genders and everything set off fireworks, and it's probably a problem. If you're in California, do not set off fireworks.
Yeah, no, don't.
Thank you, Underhill.
Yes, it will be made public. Thank you, Thomas. Will you?
Can you do that again? Thomas.
Yes.
Oh, maybe that's the best movie to watch.
Ooh-ah.
Ooh-ah! Isn't that what he says? What, The Graduate?
Scent of a Woman?
Scent of a Woman, yeah.
The Graduate.
Not The
That's
Graduate.
Dustin Hoffman.
Sorry, Scent of a Woman.
Jeez.
Hoo-ah!
Was that what he was saying?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I mean, I like that movie. I'm surprised that that's what you got from that. That's what you got from that?
Oh, I don't know if that's what he was saying.
No, I don't think it was.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it was.
That's what Al Pacino was saying.
I think you're just thinking of Scent of a Woman, which, by the way, that tango scene, oh, God. I'm desperate for someone to teach me how to tango dance. That's all I'm saying. Can someone teach me how to tango? Yeah. Anybody
out there knows how to tango? You've got an offer on the table, apparently.
Well, I don't know if it's an offer for you to teach me. That's more of a request.
That's what I'm saying.
I have nothing to offer other than, like, I want to learn.
I think we're close to $100. I think we're at, like,
I don't do the
75, 80. You don't like the maths?
I don't do the maths.
Any other topics folks want to cover? I can go to one I have ready here. I didn't know if you guys had something you wanted to go through. So yes, this is one of the articles that's at radindymedia.com, INDIE, that is. And it's about another shooting of an unarmed black man named Winston Smith, which weirdly, and I don't like memorize every fucking novel I read, so I didn't remember this, but I had literally looked up what's the name of the main character in 1984, like for this past Redacted Tonight that aired like whenever, what day is it? Aired 2 days ago. And his name is Winston Smith. And so then I saw this article and I was like, whoa, this is fucking weird. And weirdly, a man named Winston Smith was, so I saw the title of the article, Avenge Winston Smith, and I thought it was going to be an article about 1984 or something, like an interesting analysis. But instead, it is about a 32-year-old who was gunned down on June 3rd, 2021, so just this year, just a few weeks ago, in not far from where Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd. Winston Smith was killed by the U.S. Marshal Service, and it says this is from itsgoingdown.org. As well as being a father, a son, a musician, and a comedian, Winston Smith was revolutionary. He was clear-headed and outspoken about the war against black people by the U.S. and realistic about the situation. In an Instagram video, he assessed the situation and told everybody to stop raising their hands up like they were surrendering. That's become a common like protest. has been these groups of people saying, hands up, don't shoot. And it came from like, listen, cops, don't hurt us. You've been killing us while our hands are up.
Well, isn't that what Michael Brown said? My hands are up, don't shoot.
Well, a lot of people said it.
Well, right, but I think that's where it started. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't know.
But anyway, I've heard this comment before. Like the last summer here in DC, there were several Black Lives Matter organizers that said, "Don't put your fucking hands up. We're not surrendering."
Right, and so he was making that same comment that slogan or whatever is lame. But anyway, so this is a good article on Winston Smith and what he stood for, and the fact that he too was killed by police in Minneapolis, right?
Thanks, Wellhart Productions.
And yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is these stories have become so common that people just ignore them because our police kill 1,000 people a year, or over 1,000 usually.
And to your point, yes, we covered this last week, or I guess like this previous, I don't know how the fuck to say that, this past week on Common Censored, or was it the week before? I don't fucking know. I think it was, you know what, I'll look it up.
On one of our podcast episodes.
On one of our Common Censored, we talked about this, the new anti-terrorism legislation. So I'll tell you which one it is specifically, and then you can have a listen if you'd like to hear more about it. But yeah, it's super fucked up and super fucking Orwellian and fascist. Yeah. And
also Biden just bombed 2 countries, Syria and Iraq, which we also covered on the podcast. But yeah, it is. 1984 has become like an instruction manual, it seems like, which is pretty horrifying.
It was episode 161, so not last week, but the week before. Episode 161 of Common Censored, where we talk about anarchists, socialists, and other anti-capitalists being terrorists now, according to Biden. So, yeah.
Yeah, and along with that, there was a leaked a manual from the Navy, which was helping train people in the Navy. And one of the questions was, anarchists, socialists, and neo-Nazis are all part of what violent extremist group? And the answer was political terrorists. As if every socialist, meaning you have a different view of how economics should work in this country, is the same as a fascist. Or every anarchist who thinks that there shouldn't be a hierarchy above them is the same as a violent fascist. I mean, it's fucking laughable and awful.
And to answer your question, Barbara, yes. Oh, sorry. Lee did a great segment about this a couple of weeks ago.
Thanks.
That you should definitely check out. And yeah, it's
on Redacted tonight. So the best way to find it is probably to go to leecamp.com. And then if you go under the news tab, there's or news and something tab, it says archives. And you click on that and just scroll down until you see the episode on residential schools. Yeah, it's horrifying. I mean, residential schools is such a fucking euphemism for what's going on there. These are thousands of bodies of children that were murdered after being kidnapped. And the residential school system, it's been coming out a lot in Canada, but it existed in the United States too. I think Canada got the idea from the United States. And it's just fucking ridiculous. And one of the things I cover in that episode is that even as of 2007, that was the most recent article I found, NPR was telling positive news stories about Carlisle School, the most notorious of these residential schools. So, and this is something I'm getting from a person called Michelle Reed, who is an Indigenous activist, who posted a couple of days ago. So far, 7 schools have been searched and the bodies of 1,505 children have been found. That's from 7 schools. Between Canada and the US, there are still 497 schools to go. So Thanks, Kenneth.
If more than 1,000 bodies of children, of Indigenous children, have been found in 7 schools, and there's almost 500 schools left that have not been searched. That gives you an idea of the genocide against Indigenous children that has gone on until very recently.
So this is ignorant. If you're saying what I think you're saying, natives wanted their kids in school.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
There's only two options here, and either one means it's not their fault. One is that these kids were kidnapped, which I think in many cases it was straight up kidnapping. But secondly, it was that they were told these are somehow legitimate fine schools for their kids. And either way, that's if a murderer tells you he's the school bus driver and then kills your kid, that doesn't mean, oh, well, you wanted that to happen. If they were lied to and then thought it would be okay, that's still fucking disgusting.
Well, I don't know that they were ever told it's going to be okay. They were stolen. They were fucking kidnapped. These children.
And ultimately, it was 75% of Native kids. Not all of the residential schools were off of the reservations. Many of them were. But ultimately, 75% of Native kids between the years of like in the 1800s up to 1979 were in some of these schools at some point. So,
yeah. So if you think otherwise, that it's basically like saying, the slaves wanted to be here because they needed a job.
Yeah, they needed a job. They had an app, and the app gave them work, and it was
honestly like I hate to say it, dude, but read your own history because you're fucking wrong. And I recommend a lot of books that talk specifically about Indigenous history. One is an Indigenous Peoples History of the United States, which is a great Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. And that's a great kind of overview of Indigenous peoples in what is now the United States.
We got 5 minutes left, so if you guys want to donate, do it now. All the money goes to people who are struggling or need a little help. And if that's you, you can email commonsense@protonmail.com. We do not take a cut for ourselves. It all goes to help people. And you can donate on here, on Rockfin, or on Venmo at Lee Camp. And thanks to everybody who has donated. It's fucking awesome of you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Y'all are rad. I saw somebody just type $50. That's super cool.
Jay Palmer, I think you misunderstood how to do it. If you're trying to figure out how to do it, you got to click the $sign next to the comment box on YouTube. So just if you're trying to do it that way, and hopefully it will go through.
Yes, indeed. Or you can also donate at Venmo at Lee Camp, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the other
and
one.
That's specific.
Thank you, Michael.
For people who are watching this after the fact.
Awesome. There it is. Jay Palmer just nailed it.
Jay Palmer.
What a hero. Thank you, Jay.
Want an Arnold Palmer right now, or is that just me? Thank you for all that you do. Really appreciate it.
Sai says Jay Palmer is just trolling. Well, if he wants to troll by donating $50, I know, that's
right?
Awesome.
Like, sweet. Cool.
You troll all you want. Killer troll. Yeah, thank you guys. We also have a new episode of Common Censored coming out Tuesday night. There's a new episode of Government Secrets coming out tomorrow, I believe. So a lot of content out there for you. And on the latest Redacted tonight, I talk about how even Reddit has been captured by the national security state. I go through all of the details. They've purged thousands of communities on Reddit that were basically fostering thought that was outside of the Overton window, outside of what your corporations will allow, what your corporate empire will allow. Thank you, DS.
Thank you.
And they have now begun shutting that down since about 2017 when Jessica Shu was hired. And so I go through all the details on that at on Redacted Tonight, the latest one, which is up at leecamp.com and radindiemedia.com. It's also up there.
There you go. So yeah, thanks y'all. We will be here likely next week. So please do come hang out with us. Again, those watching after the fact, you can donate to support the mutual aid fund here by donating at Lee Camp on Venmo.
Thank you. And how's this for a ratio? 247 thumbs up, 2 thumbs down.
Yeah.
Damn good ratio right there. Thanks, guys.
Fuck yeah, to all of you fellow anti-imperialists out there. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and yeah, spend some time with the history of this shit heap. And feel free to share some of the things that y'all know that you've learned that we didn't cover, that you might want us to cover on Common Censored or talk about here. We're always open to hearing y'all's thoughts and ideas.
Keep fighting, everybody.
Act out.